Thanks for joining us for this latest panel discussion on ISE 2025. We're here to talk about AV and retail. I'm joined by Loek from First Impression. Welcome, Loek.
Thank you.
It seems to me the take-up of in-store AV and retail locations has been a bit of a letdown so far. Would you agree with that?
Yes and no. Basically, I think you see a lot of installations that are not successful, not doing well. But the big question is it due to the AV installations, or is the process towards that AV installation not correct?
Okay. So that's to do with talking to the client, understanding their needs?
Exactly, and maybe even helping your client determine what those needs are. We're in a technical industry that is sometimes quite hard for our clients in general to understand what really is going on. It's not like the online world where they have big teams of their own. So what you often see is that information and knowledge is spread throughout the company. And that the starting question of a client sometimes is very basic. Even go that far as, I want to have what my neighbor has. But what your neighbor has is maybe not good for you.
Yeah.
Maybe your solution has to be different because you're a totally different company. You have a totally different SWOT analysis. You have a totally different field of competitors, a totally different 5-year plan, and most important, a totally different customer journey. Because in the end, that retail space is just one of the communication channels of a client. And by treating it as a channel and looking at your total customer journey, only then you can determine what role that retail space is playing in that total customer journey and how to address that customer in the right way at that spot. And if you, back to the question in the beginning, if you go wrong in the beginning on that specific question, then most of the time the solution won't be the right solution, and with that, not successful.
Yeah. So we're really talking about a sort of detailed consultancy piece, aren't we, really? That all that work needs to be done before you even set foot on site.
Definitely, and that's why you see, I think, the industry transforming more and more in not only the technical part of AV integration. It's super important, and it's becoming even more like a hygiene factor. The right consultancy from a strategy point of view is crucial, because that strategy in the beginning and determining what really is needed by the client also determines what kind of concept you're going to create from a creative and a technical point of view. So I think we're in the transfer period of this industry becoming more mature, basically, and getting a spot in the total scope of agencies that companies work with. And I mention agencies because I think if we dare to do so in the industry, as particularly as integrators, we have kind of a spot like an agency has.
Yeah. This all came about because I went to a panel that was talking about retail, and one of the panelists said something that sort of stuck with me, really. He said, we haven't found the right formula yet for AV and retail. Do you think that's true, or do you think maybe that's part of the danger here, that we think there's a formula when there isn't? It's a case-by-case basis.
Exactly, I agree with the loss, and it's definitely a case-by-case basis. There is no magic formula that will always work. Yes, of course, we have, for example, retail media is becoming big, and especially the last years, that's kind of a formula. Yes, I know, and you can monetize and you can create big business cases and good business cases, but still, not every retail media proposition by itself is similar to the other. Yeah. And with that, yes, you might think you have the perfect formula for, in this case, retail media, but then there's still a big difference between the companies that you are doing the integration for.
I was going to say you have a client, Decathlon maybe, and they're in France, Germany, Italy, Spain. Would even the installs in those different countries kind of differ in store?
Definitely, yes. Why? Because the people in those countries are different people. Yeah. and we really have to look at it that close, and that's why I was telling about agencies, because what happens in the agency world is that we really are looking at target groups. And a target group is not only a man or a woman from a certain age, but it's also socio-demographic. It's people living in Europe or even in the UK or in the Netherlands or compared that to Asia are totally different. Yeah. And you have to approach them differently. And if you take the general shot, yes, you have the general shot. So it's like shooting with hail rather than having your crosshair on that specific customer.
Yeah. I mean, do you think that's maybe where projects in the past have fallen down, that they've treated everyone the same, right? And it's just gone, well, you're a customer and you're a customer, so you must behave the same.
Yeah, definitely. And let's be honest, it's personalization and even hyper-personalization in retail is difficult. If you do it on the retail space. Yes, we have tools, but we have different tools and sometimes more complicated tools than, for instance, that you have in the online world. Yeah. It's much easier to do. So with those limitations and also the adaptation of the customers, because sometimes we have the technique, but maybe customers don't like it if they have the feeling that they are filmed and maybe that's not even a real film, but and with that data, we do something to address them and to address them better. Yes, we have the technique, but there's also the adaptation side. So,
yeah, it's a tricky one. I think for me, it seems to be that whenever I do retail articles, a lot of the feedback I get from integrators is that they get phone calls. It's all very last minute. Can you do something in 2 weeks? It's quite a rush thing. It's reacting to campaigns or reacting to something that's happened in the wider world. I know that sometimes it's out of our hands, but do you think we need to spend more time on a design element than we currently are for retail projects? Because that feels like that bit is really key to getting it right.
Yeah, and time is crucial. And of course, in our world and working with clients, time is always at the essence. But actually, if I dare to say to our clients, we're not going to do this project because I can't guarantee you success with the project due to time. I rather do that than going into a project and rush it and knowing upfront that the results won't be any good. We want to go in for long-term partnerships, but in the end, I think the industry should do this too, because it reflects on everybody in the industry, because it's an AV integration. So time is super important. But you also need time if you have proper consultancy in the beginning. It takes time to get your information and to create that perfect starting point to do the concepting. Concepting is crucial, but the concept is only that good as the starting point that you either get or create with your client.
Yeah, fantastic. Loek, always great to talk to you. Many thanks for your time.
Thank you.